Today we are going to talk about informal versus formal communication. I'm Caitlin Schmaltz.
I'm Matthew Till.
I'm Emily Cannell. And I'm Amy Turner.
And so why are we studying communication in the workplace? Well, it's a part of our everyday life in the work, at school, with our friends, and it's important to know which kind of communication to use. Should you be more formal? Should you be more informal? So now we're going to see a clip about workplace communication.
From phone calls to conversations, presentations to blogs, and texts to tweets, communication is how we send and receive messages. And those messages surround us. They're in our words, our tone of voice, in our expressions, in our inboxes and our mailboxes, in a conversation with coworkers, or the important meeting with our boss. It's the tilt of a head or the roll of an eye. Communication allows us to share our thoughts, to learn and exchange ideas, to serve customers and clients. With so many messages to sift through, we owe it to ourselves and to others to be the best communicators we can.
Now more than ever, effective communication is the key to success, both for an organization and the people who work there. The information age has expanded the ways we communicate, making it more important than ever that we do so efficiently as possible. Effective workplace communication can be the difference between getting your work done or putting it off, making a sale or losing a customer, getting a promotion or getting fired.
In recent surveys,
So as you saw in this clip, communication is very important in the workplace, especially, as they said, with technology being the way it is. We text people, we email people, we do other things on social media, and just communicating face to face. We need to know when to be formal and when to be informal. So now Matthew is going to talk about the differences.
Formal and informal communication is both needed in the workplace. They are both equally essential, and there's a time and place to use both, and misusing this will cause consequences to the person. First, we're going to talk about formal communication, and this is normally used by executives that pass information to their employees, and it's in a straight line, and they use emails and meetings to conduct these. They also are direct, and when they ask a question, they want a direct answer that is very detailed, so that way they can pass that on to other people. They also use structure, and is normally highly structured, so that way every time it happens in a certain way, kind of like the parliament procedure. And is also direct. There's a direct path to the person that they want it to go to, and so that way they know exactly where it's going. And it's normally recorded, so that way they can go back to it, and then they can use it at different times. And then informal is used normally between employees, so that way they can brainstorm different ideas and generate ideas. It is also spontaneous, so it doesn't need to be scheduled, and anybody can be there at the meetings. It's also for problem solving, so that way they can get the ideas and everything as soon as possible. They don't have to wait for responses. And it's also a different tone quality because it's more homier, so that way they can say what they need to say, that like their facts and everything, so without worrying about how they say it. And it's usually not recorded because it's not as formal and it's not as important, but they need to know they need to go back and remember what happened. Here's a diagram that I found in my article, Communication at Work. And this just says the different ways between formal and informal meetings, how formal is scheduled in advance and informal is unscheduled. And in my interview, I interviewed Ryan Gilbert, and he talked about how his meetings were informal and formal. And for his formal meetings, he normally dressed professionally, and he conducted once a month just to talk about the matrix of all the business, and the employees had to present what they had done over the past month to him. For their informal meetings, they had to, it was just a daily one that was short and sweet, and he just asked questions for what he needed to know, and then he'd just say what needed to be done that day. And grapevine is also known as informal communication because there's no one direct path, unlike formal communication, for the information to go from person to person, so it can flow more easily to the people that needs to go to. And it can also get a quicker response because they're right there, and the information can be passed to the correct person, so the right reaction can take place. It is also less tense because they don't have to worry about what they are saying, and it also creates better relationships between the two people, so that way they can like talk about other things, have small side conversations. The disadvantages are there's more barriers because they have to overcome language barriers. And also the biggest thing is nonverbal communication because they can be upset or slouching and not think the information is relevant. And rumors can also spread throughout this way because it can also cause drama within the workplace. It is also, information may not be passed correctly to the person because it can be cloudy, you don't know what the information is being passed to you. Also, it's undependable, so you don't know if the facts are actually correct facts coming from the source. And then it's also no permanent structure, so you don't know exactly how it's going to be conducted each time. And then finally, both are essential in the workplace, and there's a proper time and place for each one. And I'm going to pass it off to Emily, and she's going to inform you about formal communication.
Okay, what is formal communication? Professionalism, using full names and titles, grammar and punctuation, keeping updated information, being polite, responding in a reasonable amount of time, and not using any foul language or inappropriate language. Formal communication and why it's important. It's just very professional. If you're in a professional setting, you want to be formal. It shows your seriousness about the job and the task. If you're kind of informal all the time in your professional meetings, it doesn't. It just kind of shows that you're not as serious as you should be. It shows respect for not only yourself, but your employees, your employers, and your customers. And it shows your level of education and your professionalism. The professionalism itself is many things. You should be polite, use appropriate names and titles, first and last name, Mr. or Mrs., and their title. If they're your boss, your manager of a certain area, you should address them by those names. Being on time for responses and deadlines. If you get an email, you should respond as soon as you can, as soon as possible, not 3 or 4 days later. Using words and visual aids really help explain how you do things, and respectful language. It's respectful to the people around you and yourself. Formal communication and responsiveness through kind of the email, messaging, text messaging, voicemail, responding in a reasonable amount of time. You should be respectful, responsible, get your work done properly, and use those ways correctly. And then communication via electronic channels. With email and texting and voicemails, it can get pretty messy these days. Using proper names and titles again. Spelling and grammar. With emails, use proper punctuation and right grammar. Giving responses in real time if possible. If you're able to kind of instant message back and forth, you can get stuff done a lot quicker. Speak clearly when using the telephone and voicemail and Skype. It can get kind of noisy with the background noise and make it hard to understand. Clarify who you are and why you're calling or writing to make it just clear and so people know why you're contacting them and who you are. And show respect by using proper opening and closing statements. And now Amy's going to talk about informal communication.
Informal communication is one of the most popular communication styles in the workplace. It is very spontaneous and casual, and it's not planned, so therefore no agenda is maintained, or the participants are not scheduled, nor is a room scheduled. Therefore, the ease and accessibility of the informal communication makes it popular among the employees. It's less reliant and accurate than formal communication, however, because most of the time, informal communication is like if you're walking to a vending machine and stop by the receptionist's desk and you remember that you have information that you need to know, you inform her of that information. However, since you don't have the actual document with you, the accuracy of the document can be a little off. It's also usually quite brief. It's like a document, or it's probably the vending machine kind of thing, so therefore it's just quick and you get the point across. It's the most frequent workplace activity. It lacks rules and hierarchy, therefore there's no parliamentary procedure within informal communication. It's very interactive because there's only a few people within the group, therefore everyone gets to speak. Informal communication can be verbally or non-verbally. There's often side conversations, such as at the coffee machine. It's usually people in close proximity with each other that spend a lot of time with each other, such as the workplace. It can be very reliant because of elaboration, so therefore since you are communicating with someone one-on-one, you can say with elaboration of what you're trying to get across. Therefore, if they have misunderstandings, you can inform them and debate with them. The informality of the situation is usually, becomes more informal as if you know the person better. Grammar rules, capitalization, and punctuation may be lacking, unlike informal or formal communication. Types of informal communication include face-to-face communication, unedited text, emails, mailing lists, bulletin boards, blogs, and instant messaging. These are all types that are very fast response and easily accessible. Informal communication benefits the workplace by assisting in accomplishing work-related tasks, accelerating group projects completion time, and it develops efficient office culture by giving side conversations and allowing people to get to know each other. It builds friendships between team members by getting to know each other and forming a common bond. It also has a fast response time because you can just walk down the cubicle to like your neighbor and ask them a question instead of looking it up and going through all the manual work. They also have quite a lot of social conversation within informal communication. How is informal communication detrimental to the workplace? There's gossip, and that can cause anger and distrust within the workplace. In fact, gossip has become so prevalent in the workplace that many places have established non-gossip zones to prevent the anger and distrust that it can cause. Inaccurate figures are definitely detrimental to the workplace. If you have a number that you need to establish and you tell the person wrong, it could totally ruin the entire integrity of the situation. There could be a confusion on meaning, such as in an email when you send something, it could be taken the wrong way. Lack of writing things down. If you were at a desk and if you weren't at a desk and got told the information and you didn't have time to write it down, you might forget. Purely social conversations is definitely a detrimental thing in the workplace because you can't have too much talking where it interrupts the workplace. Work fragmentation caused by the purely social conversation can cause interruption of the working.
Great. So interviews. So why do we care? Why should we ask people in the workplace? We can read as many articles as we want about like workplace communication, but we're not going to really know how people communicate at work without asking people. So I put together a couple of questions that we felt got the best answers from our interviewees. So one of the questions was, at work, do most people prefer formal or informal communication? Most people preferred formal communication because of the fact it's so direct. And you're also not worried about stepping on people's toes. If you're communicating with other people outside of your own business, you're not worried about offending them by using informal language. The second question was, what way do you use the most when you're communicating? So what kind of communication do you use? And they said about 7 hours out of a 10-hour workday, 7 hours were used for formal communication and 3 hours for informal. The majority of the workday is used to use formal communication. We're not there to make friends necessarily. You're there to communicate in a professional setting. The third thing is, do you think informal communication helps or hurts progress at work and why? And the majority of our people said that informal communication is okay to a certain extent. If you're constantly gossiping, if like Emily said before, you can run into problems with gossip and things like that. If you're constantly not working on the task by using informal communication, it can stop the progress that you're making at your workplace. The fourth question, when do you use formal and informal types of communication? They said they usually use formal in meetings, use formal when they're calling someone on the phone to talk to them, they use formal communication in emails, and most informal is just by the passing by of different coworkers, maybe stopping to have lunch with a coworker, something like that. And the fifth one is is it easier to be more formal or informal when it comes to the workplace? And most people said it was easier to be formal because you're taught to be professional and use certain words and to talk a certain way in the workplace. So it feels almost unnatural to talk informally at the workplace. So the overall consensus. People prefer to communicate informally, however, in the workplace it is most effective to communicate formally. The work from formal communication is worth the effort. So yes, formal communication takes time. And yes, it might not be the most natural way to speak and to communicate with others, but it's the most effective when talking at the workplace. And both are an effective tool in communicating at work. So yes, it's good to have informal conversations with your employees. It boosts morale, it gets a sense of cohesion between the employees, but there is a time and a place for informal communication. So we'd like to leave you off with this clip from SNL showing a funny meeting scene.
All right, settle down, people. Listen up. We have to cut this company's budget in half, and we are not leaving this room until we do it. Is that clear? Is that clear? Good. Now, I want you all to dig deep. I need your best ideas, and I need them now. Shelley?
Well, I looked at the budget, and frankly, I think we're spending way too much on transportation.
Transportation, huh? Daniel, what do you think?
Well, sir, our online division is hemorrhaging money. I say we lose it.
Okay. Peter?
I gotta go with Dan here.
Derek?
I'd lose tech support.
Okay. Red?
Downsize research?
Water guy?
I don't work here.
Right. Derek's twin brother.
I agree with what Derek said.
Mountain Joe.
Well, we could consolidate marketing.
Snake Eyes.
Scale back IT.
Chief Big Cloud.
Long before sister.
Not now, Gary.
Sorry, Chief Big Cloud.
I would cut accounting.
Crazy Carl. CEO's Network.
That's a way off.
Gigantic Turkey South. Listen, no time for joking. Gigantic Turkey South.
Human resources.
Mountain Tiger Head.
Longer lunch breaks.
Did you ever prepare for this meeting?
No.
Right, okay. Invisible Man. Invisible Man.
That's sick.
Captain Pajama Shark.
Present.
Never mind. Arcade Fire.
Human resources.
Death Dog. Yeah? Uh-huh. 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 I see. Guys, I've got some very bad news.
So we hope that you have learned a couple of things at least about formal versus informal communication, and you don't have a meeting that ends up like this. Thank you.